All right, Alessandro, we had a chance to really dig into the new Endgame of Division 2, which is supposed to be a better version than the first time around.
During the event, they actually mentioned a few times that they knew they sort of botched it, and they wanted to make sure they got it, this time around for the sequel.
So here's what we're going to do. We're going to talk about the impact of the factions on the map. We're going to talk about kind of how that ties into specialized weapons and bullet sponginess and settlements, how that all ties into the faction system and what you can do there. Then we'll kind of end with some things we didn't like because we don't want to just say everything's amazing with Division. It's definitely got some of the original Division problems. All right, so why are factions different this time around from the first game?
For this one, I guess the starting faction is the hyenas. Gradually, over the course of the 40-hour campaign, you'll see more like factions sort of step things up. There's going to be an endgame faction. They actually invade pretty much every mission that you played during the campaign. So every single mission, particularly the two we played, those were the Grand Washington Hotel and the Jefferson Trade Center. And if you try those again during the end game, particularly the invaded mission sort of variant of that mission, the Black Tusk will replace the faction that was there previously. One of the things that sets them apart from the other factions, rather, is that they can use a lot of the same skills that you guys that we have actually. So they have drones. They actually have these really weird walking robots that look like something right out of Boston Dynamic videos. And they're equally as scary and just off-putting, and it really had us just sort of scrambling, trying to figure out a good vantage point to try to take it out.
You're kind of getting at something that was interesting with the new faction invading, which is that over the past couple of demos that we've played, you and I have played 3 Dark Zones, we played some at E3. It always felt like the specializations didn't have any meaning. So specializations are the sniper rifle, the grenade launcher, or the crossbow. And then they said there's going to be another one that they add.
Yeah, they actually said, I believe 3 new specializations will eventually be added into the game at a later point, not at launch.
And we never really figured out what those were for, because honestly, they didn't seem all that different. They're normalized in regular PvP, and they're normalized in the Dark Zone, so they didn't really seem all that useful. So It turns out, we found out at this event that the Black Tusk invasion makes everything incredibly difficult.
Oh, yeah.
And those specializations become critical to your success. We played through 2 missions. We played one really excellent one called the Air and Space Museum, which takes place in the Air and Space Museum in Washington. And the other one was a bunker, which we can get into later. It wasn't as good. Yeah. But it was critical that people were picking up and using their special weapons during the endgame invaded missions.
But the thing is, I guess to balance it out, is that the ammo drops for these specializations are really rare. A lot more rare in cases like in Destiny 2, where the heavy ammo drops. It comes up, but not so often where you can just keep taking advantage of it. So when you have it, you got to make sure you use it at the right time, and you don't waste it.
A good example of what you're talking about are some of the heavier units. This kind of plays back into the conversation where some people don't like the bullet sponginess of it. It's a modern shooter, and it feels a little bit weird to dump entire clips into people who are unarmored. So some of the units that we saw do have armor, and it seemed like it made a lot more sense in that you actually had to break their armor before you could even start hurting them. And once you broke their armor, some of them would go down very easily with a headshot. Yeah. The bullet sponginess of the game, it's still there, but there's more situations in which it makes sense.
The one in particular that I think that really stood out for a lot of us was the one carrying the heavy Gatling gun, and he's wearing power armor that looks like straight out of Fallout. And as soon as I saw him pop up, I was like, okay, this is that kind of fight. So if you go for headshots, then eventually you'll be able to break his helmet, and going for the chest will disintegrate the armor, and that will of course lead up into actually causing raw damage to that elite.
Serious trauma detected.
Let's talk about the open world, because we had a chance to run around the open world. From what they described, and from what we saw, it seems like this is the case, but it's a little bit more like GTA San Andreas now, where factions actually fight for control of the map and also control points. And you as a player can fight for these control points in addition to bolstering settlements around the map, which have real people this time, by the way. It's not just echoes.
And you can actually talk to these people, and it also ties it back into the sort of the broader, sort of actual base or headquarters mechanic, which is, by the way, set in the White House. You've taken over the White House. It's now yours, and all your allies are there. And it's very similar to the main base in the Division 1, where you're gradually upgrading certain sections of it. And how that works in Division 2 is that you're actually recruiting all these people from these different settlements around Washington, D.C., and some of those people are actually, really good to, keep around, and, you'll be able to send them to the White House, and so they can sort of upgrade certain areas of, the base.
And then in addition to that, the settlements also will start patrolling the map as you increase their, I can only assume, is rank.
Yeah.
So you help these settlements, then you capture control points around the map. With their help, by the way, you can fire off a flare and they'll come help you. So there's real-world game mechanics other than just the emotional hook of it.
Right. It seems like your allies actually have more of a place in the world and sort of an impact on the world. I mean, they can actually help you, like during fights. Those like sort of those control points are actually I guess lead to some of the more hectic battles, because as you of course go through the campaign and even towards the end game, those battles become more hectic and more elites will come up, like then of course they will take advantage of any weapons that are nearby. There's one control point where I guess sort of struggling with, where there's a minigun.
It was a construction yard, yeah.
Yeah, they held that spot tight, and one guy had a minigun, and it was a tough fight.
Also, eventually got on the minigun and did work for our side, which was cool. Like, the mounted weapon actually was really interesting.
And of course, after you secure that control point, you'll actually be able to open up a supply closet, which actually houses a ton of loot. So
that's a good point. Let's talk about loot.
Yes,
the loot drop rates in the event that we played felt good. Like there was a constant stream of loot. Now, it was classic Division. Gold stuff isn't necessarily the best stuff. There were many times where we fell back on purple items because of handling of gold weapons.
Yeah.
But in general, it feels like there's a good reward system. There's also a cash system. So you're constantly earning points towards caches, and those caches then drop into your inventory, and you can open them up, whenever you want to.
And that was also an update from in the original Division, where after the I guess the main 1.4 update, which was basically just overhauled much of the game, and it added those I believe they're called field proficiency caches, and they really incentivize actually trying to do more content and more missions and other events to try to level up so you can get just that box.
So we played against these factions. These factions fight for power on the map, and then a new faction invades at the end of the game. So that's kind of the overall hook from what we saw right now.
Yeah.
There's some other stuff too, like safe houses give you missions to clear areas of the map. But in general, it feels like you have a much bigger impact on the world than the first game, where you landed at Chelsea Pier and the people standing in line at Chelsea Pier were still standing there at the end of the game. Like nothing had changed at all, which felt real bad.
Yeah, and I feel like, even though New York was a very, a visually interesting place to visit, there wasn't actually all that much, in terms of, growth. I mean, you tore up that city, yet it didn't really seem like it. What I appreciate about this game is that it shows more of an impact, a direct impact, rather, of your actions, in terms of, actually building up bases, establishing new settlements, and actually helping out other characters that actually interact with you. There's a number of moments where you're actually talking to other characters, and you can read up more about them, and see what they're about.
As usual, I don't want to rose color everything in a game, so there were some things that didn't come across so well in this build of the game.
Yeah, but it was unusually dark, the game, during the night in particular.
Yeah, not thematically dark. It was thematically dark, but it
was hard to see.
Hard to see, yeah.
Our group actually asked one of the developers who was hanging back and just watching us play, and we thought it was maybe just our televisions, it just wasn't set correctly or whatever, and he was like, no, that's what we're going for here.
And we all promptly cranked up the brightness to maximum setting. Yeah. Because I was just shooting at health bars. I couldn't even see half the time.
I mean, it was distracting, in terms of just how difficult it was to actually, see.
Some other things I didn't particularly like. And to be honest, the progression system is probably only going to bug you for an hour and then it'll go away. But there was some weird things, like you had to spend your tech on unlocking your second weapon slot and unlocking attachments, which just didn't feel right. It felt like you should be able to just pick those up and go.
This is for the new, I guess, sort of expanded version of the perks system from the original game. Over the course of the game, you'll basically acquire these sort of SHD tokens, which you can spend on sort of perks. And one of the first perks you can get is unlocking the second weapon slot. So you can carry you carry 2 primaries, 1 sidearm, and of course, after the campaign's finished, the 1 specialization weapon.
Yeah, and some of your abilities that you spent it on weren't that good, and you could waste the money on one of those rather than knowing you had to use it to unlock your second slot.
Right.
So a couple of the abilities now require you to kind of just haphazardly mash the bumper until they sort of do what you think they should do. For example, there was a bomber drone, and in those cases, it was just easier to shoot things than to waste your time trying to figure out how many times you had to mash a bumper to get it to do what you wanted to do in the first place. That was also extra frustrating when Division does the monster closet thing that you were talking about before, where some of the rooms were ridiculous.
Oh, yeah.
Some of the rooms were fantastic. Like the Air and Space Museum, that level was amazing. It was perfect. It was looked beautiful. And then we did another Endgame mission called Bunker.
The Federal Emergency Bunker.
And we were just stuck in a room full of closets with enemies spawning just constantly. And the room just flipped tons of different times to the point where it just wasn't fun anymore.
I actually looked in one of the doors that opened up, and it seemed like they're 2 heavies just sort of bunched up in a room. They're literally just stuck in a closet, just waiting for the right opportunity to come out. And it was the most video gamey moment I experienced in The Division. It just kept going and going. And this was a 10-minute encounter. This is, by the way, this is one of the invaded missions, which happens during the endgame, where the Black Tusk basically replaces the existing faction in a previous mission. And so basically they're throwing everything at you. In this case, they pretty much threw it seemed like they threw almost every soldier they had in the Black Tusk faction at us.
They could still work on their enemy spawns.
Yeah.
All right, final thoughts. Do you feel like the endgame is there, and is it going to hold on to you after that 40-hour campaign?
When you look at how the Division 1 launched with its endgame, then definitely 100%. They're doing way more with the endgame. It feels more thoughtful in terms of how this new faction, the Black Tusk, basically sort of disrupts everything. Of course, you're going to be going through a lot of the usual missions you went through, but with the twist of the new faction basically coming in and disrupting what you would expect with those previous missions. And by the way, they're also going to randomize the encounters you have within those missions when you're doing the invaded versions, which is the elite version, which only comes up in the end game. So and of course, when you also add in what they're doing with the dark zones as well, the occupied dark zones, which cycle every week.
Those are the ones that are not level balanced.
Yes, friendly fire is active. They're really adding a lot more in terms of just sort of shifting sort of the balance of the world itself. And of course, this also leads up into the eventual raid content that will be coming into the game.
Yeah, eight player raids.
8-player raids. It's a big deal.
The Division private beta is coming out soon.
You'll pretty much be able to play what we played. So in addition to the first couple hours, you'll be able to play the 2 versions of the endgame missions, particularly the Air and Space Museum and the Federal Emergency Bunker.
And also, we've done a lot of coverage of the 3 Dark Zones. So if you head on over to GameSpot.com, you can watch our full impressions on their version of PvPvE.
PvPvE.
All right. Thanks for watching, everyone.